Uncontested Sports on this Monday night, March 28th. Jordan, Joe, and Ringle after the week off. For the three of us, we are back. The Yankees 2022 team is taking shape with pretty much just the finalized squad that they're going to be rolling out. So we're going to be talking about the Yankees and their season outlook on their controversial, off-season free agent trade acquisitions. The NFL had some crazy stuff going on with the trades and free agency. We took a week off, but we missed a week, but we missed a lot. So we're going to go dive into what's been going on, Tyreek Hill, Deshaun Watson, and so on and so forth. And then the Knicks have got on a little bit of a run as of late with the young guys taking front and center. So again, we got Yankees, we got Knicks, we got some NFL moves throughout the offseason going into the draft. And I think we have to. I feel like we have to at this point talk about the Oscars last night. I guess we'll do that.
Everyone's doing it. So,
I know.
Yeah.
We got to give our 2 cents on the Oscars and what's happening. What happened last night was that news notes. Before we do anything on Twitter, you can follow us at Uncontested Pod, Instagram at Uncontested_pod. We're also on YouTube at you can type in Uncontested Sports on YouTube and you can watch us live through there. If you guys don't have if you guys want to watch us live on Twitter and you don't have access to Twitter, go on YouTube. By the way, we go live Monday nights around 7:00 p.m. on Twitter Spaces, where you can join the conversation with audio. You can also watch us live on through Twitter, through the Melon. We broadcast on Melon as well. YouTube is the new one we are on. We finally got YouTube. A long time waiting. But we start off today's show with a topic we discussed right before, I think it was 2 weeks ago. And we were saying, based on their moves, that we were expecting a little bit more to be done, and then we could really judge their offseason. That's the Yankees. And the Yankees, at the time of our show 2 weeks ago, the one move they made was the two players, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa at shortstop and Donaldson, and they moved on from Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. I was saying at the time that move in the moment, it made them slightly better, slightly. They got better defensively. I feel like you get more consistent bats out of both of them, opposed to Gary and Gio. And then you get better behind the plate because kind of Falefa will give you your shortstop, and then your catcher will be Higashioka or Michael, a guy named Brantley, I believe. But Higashioka, I think, will be the starter. So he's better defensively over Gary. And then we were just going to wait and see. Rizzo was still up in the air. Freeman was still up in the air at the time, and Story was still up in the air at the time. And I believe Correa was too. Then Correa was the first piece to fall. He goes to the Twins. And people actually made the joke that the Yankees allowed the Twins to get Correa because they took Donaldson's contract away. And then now Correa's on the Twins for basically a 1-year deal. And if Correa has a good season, he'll opt out, go back into free agency. And I think the only way he doesn't opt out is if he gets hurt or has like a terrible season. He's not going to opt out. So Yankees missed out on Correa, potentially a really good deal for Correa, potentially a 1-year deal if they would have got Correa. But that goes out of the way. And then before Freeman goes to the Dodgers, it's Rizzo's name that drops. And Rizzo's coming back to the Yankees on a 2-year deal. So once you see Rizzo come, you're like, oh, God, Correa's gone. And now Freeman's basically gone. We're not going with Freeman because we got Rizzo. Rizzo's solid, good defensively, a solid bat, lefty in the lineup, not good defensively, great defensively. But he's no Freddie Freeman though. That's the difference. And that was the first one that was the first move that was made by the Yankees, and then Freeman was the next domino to fall that really started getting the conversation going, thinking, did the Yankees blow this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think blowing it is the term. I mean, yeah, they lost out on Freeman. That's the big piece that you wanted / needed. Rizzo is a good backup plan. But yeah, you said that the Kiner-Falefa and the Donaldson trade allows the Yankees to be slightly better. I think it's really just a lateral move. Yes, they got Gary out. Yes, they got Gio out. But I really do think that they didn't get much better, which is kind of what you said. But I think that they really should have turned some attention to center field also, because how could you go into this season with Aaron Hicks again?
Yeah, I don't know. I never liked Aaron Hicks. You know that.
Yeah.
He's very inconsistent. He can't stay healthy. His fielding is deteriorating, but they love Aaron Hicks.
Because you answered your shortstop position in the interim for now with Kiner-Falefa, and then you lost out on Freeman. Then they should have done something at center field, whether just honestly anybody over Aaron Hicks, and they've done nothing. So that's the biggest thing for me right now, is that they just kind of gave up after getting Rizzo, which it's a positive that they got Rizzo. I don't want to knock them for getting him because they could have just not gotten Rizzo and
then Luke Voigt or
DJ exactly. So we can credit the Yankees there, but just the fact that you didn't address center field it is bothersome to me.
Yeah, no, Aaron Hicks is not the guy back there. I don't expect any healthiness, or even if he's healthy, to be any productive. But now you have an infield of Rizzo at first, short's Falefa, third's Donaldson, Higashioka behind the plate, and second looks like it's Glaber. So now you have DJ LeMahieu and his contract being a utility guy. Why are we paying a utility guy that much money to bounce around the now you're going to have no consistency in the infield. Every game you're going to have one guy at this spot, a different guy at this spot potentially. And later in the game, the infield might look the same through the fifth inning, but the sixth inning hits, DJ might pop in every other game to take out Torres, or you move DJ to first and this and that.
Well, I think
they're bouncing guys around. It is no consistency in the infield.
I think they said with DJ is that he's going to play mostly every day. He's just going to be in a different place. So like, I think they're giving like Donaldson more days off, Glaber more days off, and it's really just those two. You're not going to sit Rizzo.
How do you get consistency though?
I know. I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you. It's a stupid plan to have.
Their plan should be move Glaber or move DJ to another team. When I say move, yeah.
Like DJ had an off year last year, but he's still your leadoff guy.
Yeah,
you still have to give him at least this season to see if he can do what he did the season prior, which was unbelievable.
I think he was playing hurt last year because he missed, I think, September. He missed the wild card game. Glaber played at shortstop and was terrible. And then when he moved to second, he was showing signs of getting better at the plate. He's had a good preseason, spring training. I think he's batting in the 400s. A couple guys that are having good spring trainings on a brighter side. Judge having great spring training. Glaber's having good spring training. Donaldson's having good spring training. Stan and kind of Falefa. 5 guys right there, all having very good spring trainings. So that's something to be happy about. Something not to be happy about. Garrett Cole in his 1 outing did not look good. Severino in his 2 outings looked horrible.
And what did I think?
Debbie Garcia had a very good outing.
I think I said that to you. You said that Severino looked good coming in last season, but he was in a bullpen position.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference moving back to the starter role.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's spring training, though. You take all of it with a grain of salt, all the good and the bad, obviously. But just, you don't want to see Cole. You don't want to see your 1 and 2 having a terrible spring training regardless.
Now, the Yankees, they go into the season. You expected drastic changes to be made, and there's not anything drastic. They didn't get the big shortstop, which I didn't expect them to, but as it started getting down to the wire, I'm like, could we there's Trevor Story going to Boston. Yeah, they're not giving Trevor Story that contract, but you can't allow him to go to Boston though, because like Boston might have got a little worse, but now with Story in your division at Fenway and then at the Bronx, you can't allow Trevor Story go to Boston. That's a bad optic and bad for the going forward. That guy, he's going to rake in both those ballparks. And now he's in your division now, and you wanted to be stingy. You didn't want to give the big shortstop contract, and now you're giving the whole world is on the shoulders of Anthony Volpe now. This guy better come in and be Fernando Tatis Jr. level of play and ability in the field. With the amount of pressure, you didn't spend big on the infield this offseason because Volpe's the guy, and you got to hope he comes through. You have to hope you have to bank on these prospects, and that's why you didn't see the Yankees make any of these giant moves in this offseason because their prospect pool.
Yeah, they got Connor Falefa, which is your interim shortstop, your stopgap, whatever you want to call it, and they're waiting on Volpe, and it's a lot. That I mean. It might not be a lot of pressure for him. He might be able to rise up to the occasion when he does get called up. I mean, I don't think we're going to expect insane numbers right away, like a Patrick Mahomes season or anything like that, like right away. Well, I mean, he was in his second year, but you know what I mean. But still, he just needs to pan out, and that's pressure. That's pressure to do so in this league, and the Yankees are kind of putting that on him.
Yeah, and it's not like it's the Pirates he's coming into. He's coming to the New York Yankees. You know how quickly a fan base can turn on you. I mean, look at Gary Sanchez and Stanton and now Gallo, how quickly you can get turned on. So he's going to be expected to make immediate production. If there's a chance he can come up.
I don't think immediate. I just think
he's got to show something quick. He's got to show something quick. I'm not saying be Patrick Mahomes.
It's got to be it's got to be in the first year. It's got to be obviously in the first season. It can't just be like, oh, he did okay this whole season. We'll see next year. He's got to show something his first season, but I don't think he has to be like crazy like.
I
blown
was
away
about to
stats
say, I
number,
don't
yeah.
think he has to be Patrick Mahomes in his
Yeah.
first month or whatever,
Yeah.
but he's got to show something early
Mhm.
because it's going to be, there's a lot of expectations going forward. And the big piece after Rizzo went was Freeman because the Yankees were involved with him. And you see that contract that Freeman got. The Yankees were never going to do that. They were, as much as I would like Freeman on the team, if you get Freeman now, great. But then it becomes, if you don't win the World Series this year, you're probably losing Judge next year.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I would love Freeman, but they're not giving him that contract because you're not getting Freeman and you're not getting Judge on those contracts. And they're rushing against the clock right now in 10 days. They got to get Judge signed before the season starts. And then after the season, you're competing against every team in the league to sign Judge.
I disagree with you a little bit there, just because if you do sign Freeman to that big contract, it's not like you're sending Judge. It's not like you're putting Judge out the door. I think yes, it's less likely in theory, but I think there's still a strong chance they are able to do both.
No, they would go over. It would push them closer and closer to going over the luxury tax, which they don't want to do.
Oh yeah, but
and they don't want to pay the fine
if
or
it's
lose
to keep
draft
Aaron
picks.
Judge, I think they'd go over the luxury tax. I don't think they'd care about that. If Judge wants to stay and wants to stay a Yankee, and
he does want to stay, they're not going to do it.
I'm saying in this timeline
price.
of Freeman coming and maybe them making the playoffs but just not winning it, and Judge wants to stay even with that. I think Freeman being on the team helps Judge staying or wants to be here because the team's better.
But Judge wants to be here, but he wants to be here at his right price.
Yeah.
And we saw an arbitration. They're kind of on two different sides of the spectrum right now on what the Yankees want to give him, what Judge wants. So I think it would be increasingly more difficult if you got Freddie Freeman on that contract he got from the Dodgers, and then to get Judge back as well, along with Freeman's contract on the team. And then you're just banking on hoping you can win the World Series this year. Because if you don't, then you wouldn't win a World Series. It'd be easier to win a World Series and then, okay, if we lose Judge, at least won the World Series.
Yeah.
If you lose the World Series, like, now we can't lose Judge.
No, I know what you're saying. I just disagree with you a little bit because it's not impossible to do both, is what I'm saying. You can keep Freeman and Judge after next year.
It's not impossible.
There's no salary cap. It's baseball,
but it wouldn't be easy.
Yeah.
It would not be easy for them. That's why they didn't shell out for Freeman.
Yeah.
And that's why they didn't shell out for Story. Correa, possibly a doable situation. They could have done the Correa deal, but they struck first on kind of Falefa and Donaldson, and that's why Correa was out of the option.
Wasn't it also the trade with kind of the trade between the Twins and the Yankees?
I said that in the beginning. Yeah, they kind of opened up the cap space
exactly.
for the Twins to make that deal.
Yeah.
But now, you got the Blue Jays in the AL East who look like they're going to light the world on fire this year. The Rays are always good. I think the Yankees are better than Boston, but still, it's Boston, so they're always going to play you tough. So the Yankees, in a positive way, let's look at it as a Yankee fan. It's something to keep in mind. Last year was, in terms of Yankees fans, a disaster in the regular season. They were a disaster. They still won 93 games, right? So in a disaster of a regular season, you still won 93 games. In half a season when you had 0 lefties in the lineup, in the whole season where you only had one starter you can go to, you still won 93 games with bad managing, bad fielding, bad base running. Guy, DJ, Glaber, underperforming, Gary underperforming, Voit being hurt out of the lineup, Gio being hurt out of the lineup. You still won 93 games despite all of that. So that's a positive to keep in mind. Be like, hey, we don't even have to be amazing to win the division. We just got to be good, and we're talented enough to win the division. And we don't, like, teams like, you look at Boston. I think Boston has to be amazing to win the division this year. The Yankees just have to be good. Their talent is exceptional enough that good will win the division. That they don't have to play like barn burners. Because, I mean, look at last year. They played like crap, and they won 93 games and almost won the division.
My only problem with that is that just with the Yankees these last few seasons, it hasn't been about winning 90, 100 games.
Yeah.
It's been about getting to the World Series and winning it. We know this team is good. We know they can make the playoffs. It's about getting over that next step, and that's something they failed to do. So I think that's why there's a lot of heat on them, because yes, they didn't get worse where now they're not a playoff team. They're still a playoff team, but they didn't do anything to get them over that hump. So I think that's where the big thing that where that big criticism is with the Yankees.
And the thing is, it's like their pitching right now is up for debate. Like who's after Cole? Who's after Cole? Garcia had a good outing. Cortez had a good outing. Has been good this spring training. There's another guy. Luis Heel has had a good spring training so far. Chapman's looked good, but he's a closer. So what? Who's your second starter after everyone's talking about Montas or whatever? Montas is his name from the A's, or Mania from the A's.
But now I think the A's are keeping them. I don't.
Yeah,
think
I'd be shocked if the move happens late, going right before the regular season. So who's your second starter? And the thing is, in the playoffs, it hasn't been pitching that's been their Achilles heel. It's been the bats have not been able to get hits, and the bats go cold. You live and die by the home run ball. The Rays have managed to do that, live and die by the home run ball and strike out a lot and still be successful. The Yankees haven't solved that formula yet.
And now you're potentially going into a season where out of the most recent ones, like 2 or 3, you have the worst rotation out of the last 2 years compared to previous years, with just Cole and, like you said, who else? Like, at least you had Paxton, who, he gave you a little bit here and there. It was very inconsistent, but at least he was a name. He was there.
You have a lot.
Have a lot of no names, like Cortez. I liked Cortez last year. He was great out of the pen. Moved to the rotation. Still did good in the rotation, but he's still kind of unproven. He's got to prove himself. Same thing with Hill. Same thing. He's young. He's got to prove himself. So like you have a lot of unknowns in that rotation. Probably the most volatile rotation potentially out of the last 2 or 3 seasons. I
want to address something that you said, Jordan. You mentioned that the Yankees, despite having a disastrous season last year, still found success, right? And while I typically agree with you, I do agree with you. I do agree that that's a good thing. Just to play devil's advocate, you could look at that and say, I mean, that's kind of scary, right? Like, in order for that season to go as poorly as it did, but you guys still find success and make it to the playoffs, certain things had to go right. You got to win those close games. You got to have the guys that stepped up in replacement of injured players to kind of get the job done. It's almost scary to think that, hey, what if certain things that fell in our favor last season don't fall in our favor this season? What if it's a continued disaster? What if certain guys don't step up the way that we expect them to, and other things don't fall into place, whether it be the teams around us losing games, the replacements coming in performing? You could slip in the opposite direction. I feel
like that has happened a lot with the Yankees, where a lot of things haven't gone their way in terms of injuries. And then last year, really guys underperforming and not having good baseball IQ, and they still made it work. So this team's good enough to get through the times that it doesn't work. For the past, since like 2019, that one year when they made it to the ALCS in Game 6 and lost the Astros, that year was all injuries. That was like the minor league Yankee team that came through. And then 2020 was the shortened season. Bad year from Glaber. Judge was hurt. Bad year from DJ, just off the top of my head. And they made it work. I agree with Joe in the sense, how long can we go?
That's essentially what I'm saying.
How long can we go with every year someone new underperforms or someone else gets hurt, but we keep pushing forward? How long can we go with Boone not being the greatest manager in the world?
Because while it may be hard to accept, that good enough that you just mentioned, right? You've just been kind of good enough is not good enough when you're wearing the pinstripes. Like that's just the reality. You are the New York Yankees. You are expected to have a higher standard than all the other teams in the league. So it almost makes it twice as worse when you have the seasons that you've been having as of late.
Which can tie into the criticism that I brought up, which is why like everyone, the Yankees maybe got a little bit better, but it's not good enough because they need to make those 1 to 2 moves that can get this fan base ready to get them over that hump and get to the World Series. They still haven't been to the World Series yet, let alone winning one.
Yep, since 2009.
Yeah,
and
which is a long time. Like you can't look at that anymore and say, oh, for the last few years the Yankees really haven't been that good. It's no longer a few years. Like you guys have been.
It's been since 18, right? They've been like contenders.
I don't
correct.
17 was the out of nowhere year that they were
right. So yeah, I'm not going to count that. I'm going to count like 18 and on.
I would count that they're that close.
Yeah, but they were that close, but the expectations weren't there. And so let's just count from 18 on, which is still a long time, where they're legitimate contenders and still haven't gotten there.
After every season since 2018, I've been like, so this is the year we win it, right? And then when they don't win it, I'm like, well, we got to do some stuff in the offseason here. And then the offseason ends and we're going to the season. I'm like, this has got to be the year they win it, right? Yeah. And now this is the one year where I'm like, can we win it? Because In the past years, the Yankees were one of the cream of the crops in the American League.
Yeah.
Now their division, they might not even be the cream of the crop with the Blue Jays coming up and the
way the Rays play.
The way the Rays play, they're a thorn in the Yankees' side.
I want to bring up one last thing on the Yankees, a name that they could do to help their center field problems. They can get a known guy in New York. They can get Michael Conforto. He can play center field. He does play more on the corners, but he can play center. He's a lefty bat. He's good enough. He's better than Hicks. He's an upgrade over Hicks, I think. I think that would be a really nice addition for them just to get another different face in that lineup and possibly someone that could wildly outperform Aaron Hicks.
Thing is that I asked you about him. I think I would like a Conforto, but they're not getting him. They're not going to get him because
why not?
Why not? Because he'll be a bench guy until Hicks gets hurt. And then he'll come in. They're not going to get. And Conforto wants a decent contract. He's going to want a decent size and money.
But again, you need to make the World Series. Well, like you can't put at some point you can't put a price on that.
Hicks.
I know.
I'm not talking about they can't afford him.
Yeah.
I'm talking about they're not going to give Michael Conforto that contract to play behind someone on the bench.
No,
they already have DJ's contract kind of coming off the bench already. Hicks is. I don't agree with it at all, but Hicks is their guy. And they're not going to give someone a contract like Conforto. Yeah, they're not going to give Conforto his contract that he wants to sit on the bench and play behind someone for the most part. And then you have Judge, Stanton, Gallo, Hicks, and you have 5 now with Conforto outfielders for 3 spots.
Hicks, but that's my theory with getting Conforto. I don't even consider Hicks a member of the team. That's how like
I know.
You know what I mean? Like that's my opinion. The Yankees don't feel that way clearly, or else he would be off the team.
Love him.
But I don't even consider Hicks an option. So to get Conforto, I don't see him as a bench player. I see him as a likely starter.
You don't even consider him as an option. The Yankees see him as their starting center fielder.
And that's insane to me.
A guy who can't stay healthy, he had one good year with the Yankees and then can't stay healthy. His center fielding skills are deteriorating. He's only getting older. And at best, he'll give you 220, 230 with 17, 18 home runs, I think, this year. That's if he plays close to 100 games.
I
would put up with that if he was a great center fielder. But he's not anymore.
He's 3-4 years older now.
He's not a good center fielder. That one good year, I think that was 2019.
Probably. It was 18 or 19, I think, that he was like at the peak of his defensive skills and
his hitting.
Yeah,
I got my baseball reference right now.
Even his hitting was always inconsistent. He was never a consistent hitter.
2018, 27 on 1, 79 RBIs, 248, but an 833 OPS. So solid season. Solid.
Yes.
Solid. But then that's 2018, and he hasn't been healthy ever.
But to the point I'm making, he was never a like crazy consistent hitter.
No.
Never was. He was just good enough with the fielding to be a good starter for them. But that ship has sailed. And what year you said 18? Was that 18 or 19?
That was 18.
So 18.
Yep.
Like, come on.
And now he's 30. He's
19, 20, 21.
He's 32 now.
3 years that he hasn't shown you that he's the same player in 2018. What are you waiting on?
And now he's 32. And
I'm not saying it's not like Conforto's Mike Trout, but like it's not like he's that much of an upgrade. But compared to Aaron Hicks, he might be Mike Trout of an upgrade.
I
come 100%
on. Take Michael Conforto over Aaron Hicks. Even though Conforto did not have the best year last year, a lefty bat that pulls the ball to right field at New York.
And based on what's available out there right now,
he's younger, and I have more hope that Conforto could put it together. Much higher ceiling than Aaron.
This is something I don't want to see. I don't want to see Michael Conforto.
But he's not coming back for the Mets. He's not playing.
I know he's not. No, I know he's not coming back for the Mets. But that still doesn't want me to see him as a Yankee. But it makes sense for them, in my opinion. It does.
Yankees, Mets. MLB season 10 days away, so our show next week will be right before we kick off with the final. We actually got the MLB season, thank God, this year. Yeah. But now on to basketball. We got the Knicks on right now. They're now 19-13 in the first to the Bulls. But Joe, your Knicks have been on a recent surge with the young guys taking front and center, Joe. After a season with mainly downs, you had a couple of glimmers of hope.
Yeah.
Tom Thibodeau, in his veteran-like ways, loves playing the older guys. He's going a little change of scenery, and it's maybe a little bit of brightness shine on to this Knicks tragic season.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, he's eased up a little bit. It's kind of hard at this point not to, given the amount of success that given the amount of success that this team has had when the young guys take the floor. Knicks playing at home against Chicago Bulls tonight after a 3-game road trip in which they won all 3 of those games. There was a nice convincing win against the Charlotte Hornets, who are a very strong team in their own right. Then they beat the best team in the Eastern Conference in the Miami Heat, a game in which they were down 17 points in the fourth quarter, came back and won that game by 8. And then they had a 20-point lead against the Pistons last night and won by 2. So, it continues to be an up and down, inconsistent type of game-by-game thing for this team. They are very frustrating in many ways. They can come back from 17 down against the best team in the East, and then they can blow a 20-point lead against a lowly team like the Pistons. But yeah, there's a lot to like right now, especially the way that the young guys have been taking the floor. Miles McBride, a guy that's bounced between the NBA and the G League, has come in. His plus minus is off the charts. When he plays a certain number of minutes, the Knicks find success. Obi Toppin's finally got some extended minutes. A couple games ago, he played 40 minutes, by far the most action he's ever had on the floor this season. So in year 2 for Obi, he's shown some improvement when given the opportunity. And just when he's on the floor, the Knicks offense as a whole moves a lot more fluidly, a lot quicker. The reason he got those minutes was because Julius Randle was out. Julius Randle continues to be an enigma for me, for this team. Bogs down the offense when he's on the floor. I said, I think a couple of weeks ago, I still see a role for him on this team, but he continues to do things that make it difficult to stand by those words. A lot of that comes in terms of effort defensively and offensively at times. Nearly after every game, you can go on Twitter and find a sequence in which he didn't give it his all. You got every guy on the team sprinting back, and he is just, lazily jogging up the floor, sticking down on the other end of the floor, waiting for an outlet pass to kind of get an easy bucket. So that's something that, as a Knicks fan, is unacceptable. You can't have that. I think he's already proven that he is not a leader for this team. I think the keys are solely in RJ Barrett's hands. Ever since he came back from injury, RJ Barrett's made it a point to get to the basket more, to be aggressive every single time he touches the ball. And in 2022, in this season, he is averaging more points than Steph Curry. He's scoring 24 a game. He's just made a conscious effort to put the team on his back offensively. And unfortunately, some of the strings that Tom Thibodeau's pulling, the lack of a true point guard, despite Emmanuel Quickley being very good for us of late, RJ has to kind of shoulder the load and be that guy more often than not. But he's coming through for us, and he's won us a lot of games. So there's a lot of good things to say about the Knicks. There's a few bad things, of course, but again, I said last week or 2 weeks ago that this would truly be a lost season if the young guys did not develop, or at least if we didn't give them the chance to develop. I think now, with 7 games left, Tom Thibodeau is going to start to introduce, Jericho Sims, Emmanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes into the lineup a little bit more, so we can see what we have in them and then evaluate our offseason appropriately.
You're sitting right now 5.5 out of the dumb play-in tournament right now. The
Yeah.
10 seed. Yeah, the Hawks are at 500. You're almost 10 games under. A loss today against the Bulls will put the Knicks under 10 under 500.
Yeah,
It's a tall hill to climb, and you got to ask now for, in less than a week span, to knock off 2 of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. I know you got the Bulls right now at home, but it's a tall order to ask. And then Randall's back now. I think he has the ball right now. You see Randall being moved in the offseason. You don't see him sticking around much longer? Because I see it too. The few times I do watch with the Knicks or keep up with them in terms of social media wise, it's one drama. Even when Randall's playing good, it's drama that he brings to the team. And he just came off being hurt in the whole thing. I think you have a lot of young players on this Knicks team right now. Toppin didn't pan out as quickly as you guys hope, but you want to see more of him on the floor, opposed to, I guess, Julius Randle. And then I guess RJ's been playing pretty solid as of
RJ has
all
been,
season, right?
RJ's
consistently.
RJ was not efficient in the first half of the season by any means. He still is a little bit inefficient. Yes, he's been scoring most of the times at will, but it hasn't always been efficient. A lot of times he takes a lot of shots per game and doesn't really hit as many as he should. But RJ's been great, and we have a really strong young core. Mitchell Robinson, Quentin Grimes has been an absolute steal in the previous draft as a 3-and-D guy. Emmanuel Quickley is showing signs that he can really be a great second unit point guard. And it's fortunate for him that guys like Kemba Walker and Derrick Rose for different reasons fell out of the rotation, injury, and then just lack of performing. So he's been a bright spot for us, as have a lot of the young guys. But to answer your question, do I see Julius Randle on this team next season? I think I do. I think the Knicks missed their window to trade him. I don't really know what they would get back for him now. So I do think he's a part of our offense next year, a part of our team next year. There's a lot of things that are going to have to change, though. I mean, his attitude on the court, it's bad for the brand. The lack of effort is unacceptable. And that's why fans are so frustrated. And me personally, I'm so frustrated when I see him on the floor. The other night when he was out and Obi Toppin got 40 minutes, the offense just looks completely different. Why? Because Obi Toppin is a guy that thrives in transition. This guy glides across the court and everything speeds up. And you mentioned Obi Toppin not quite being what Knicks fans had hoped for right away. But naturally, he has been a slow, developed player. I mean, before he was even in college, it wasn't even a sure thing that he was going to play college basketball. And then he won the award for best college player in the nation. So yes, we drafted him at a high age. He was 22. RJ is only 21, and he's been in the league for 3 years. But we have to have patience, and Obi Toppin has shown flashes of being great. And I think that he can be something for this team.
But with Randall still being on the team, it hurts him, and it doesn't allow him to get the opportunities that he could get to,
of course,
finish his development or at least make the next step.
And I think it's in the Knicks' best interest to move him. You look forward, if we want to look forward just a little bit to the NBA draft and where the Knicks are in it, we are likely going to fall out of the top 10. And there's a considerable size drop-off after the top 9 or 10 picks. So we're not going to have a chance at a guy like Purdue's Jaden Ivey, who is an electric player like John Morant. He's probably going to be the first overall pick. The next best player probably on our radar would be Benedict Mathurin, former Canadian. So I'm sure him and RJ would get along just fine. But again, he's probably going to go 6 or 7. So we're not going to get a chance to draft the guys that we want. So I think looking forward, I don't know, maybe we trade back. Maybe we move Randall so we don't have such a logjam at the position.
Yeah.
You got to remember, we still have to figure out what to do with Cam Reddish, who we traded a first-round pick for. And he didn't play when he was healthy, and now he's hurt. So I would like to think that after trading a first-round pick for him, you're not just going to let him go in the offseason.
I see
he's got to stick around.
Julius Randle, not to the same level, but kind of in the same category as someone else in the league, in the category of why would you trade for this person? Not to the same level as James Harden, but I see Julius Randle along with James Harden as 2 guys in the league. Like, why would you trade for this person unless you got a huge compensation back?
That's the reason why I think he sticks around, because the Knicks aren't going to be able to find enough value for him.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they missed that ship sailed after last season. They should never have signed him to the crazy extension.
Well, you say that now in hindsight.
But
last year we're chanting MVP.
Yes, but when yes, hindsight is always 2020. But if you consider his career arc, he had never done that before. He didn't do enough. There was not a large enough sample size to warrant, I think it was a 4-year contract. So it's unfortunate the way things panned out. You had to assume he was going to regress this season because of how well he played last year. But to regress at this level and show zero effort on a night in and night out basis, it's unacceptable. You can't have that guy on your team.
But that's what I'm saying. Even if the Knicks have someone that they're talking to, another team for Julius Randle, and it's not what they think they can get more, I think they might just have to bite the bullet and move him because he's kind of addition by subtraction. At this point,
that's a pill that some teams, some front offices can't swallow.
The Knicks might have to in order, and maybe they're unwilling to because he didn't get moved at this deadline. So maybe there were teams that were interested in Randall. I don't know anything,
Mhm.
but maybe there was, and they wanted more for him, and then that's why no deal happened. I hope that's not the case, because if that is the case, that's just toxicity right there. That's just having him on this team when all the stuff that happened this year, it's just going to continue. It's going to roll over into next year.
Yeah.
You're going to hurt Obi. You're
Well,
going to
yeah.
hurt the.
A lot of questions with him, and Mitchell Robinson's a free agent in the offseason as well, is right?
Yeah, Mitchell
Yeah.
Robinson, I think, is a guy that we should sign. I think he needs to stick around. He can be a very dominant center when healthy. That's
The guy
the,
can't
that's
stay
the
on the
thing. Though.
court. He
That's
can
the
never
thing.
stay on the court.
He can't stay on the court. But again, guy like Jericho Sims has come out onto the floor and played very well as our backup center.
There he is.
Uh,
Right now.
Yeah, there he is on the floor. That guy is a physical specimen. He's gigantic. And the best part about the young guys, this is the last thing I'll say on the Knicks, is that they bring such energy and life to the floor when they play. And it's such a stark contrast between the things that you're seeing Julius Randle and Alec Burks doing. Alec Burks has gotten a lot of flack from Knicks fans, and rightfully so. But it's not entirely his fault. He has been forced into playing a point guard position that is not naturally what he does. And he's doing the best that he can, but his numbers are underwhelming because that's not who he is. He played so well last season because he was simply a spot-up shooter. He wasn't handling the ball. He wasn't asked to run the offense, and that's why it makes it so frustrating that Tom Thibodeau continues to start him at point guard. When you have guys like Miles McBride who are going off in the G League and Emmanuel Quickley, who's playing very well as the backup point guard, put Quickley into the starting spot and stop sending Miles McBride back to the G League. Let him have the backup role as point guard. And over the next 7 games, let these guys show what they can do. Because it makes no sense to continue to run Alec Burks at the point guard position. He has been incredibly inefficient, and the numbers.
He started
from the coach's standpoint. That he's like, for the sake of my my look, I got to keep running this guy out there.
Why?
For the sake of my look.
Why?
Because if I go the other way and it goes bad, now it's even.
But it has not gone bad so far. When the young guy, but there's 7 games left.
I know.
How bad can it go in 7 games?
But they're not. But they're not out of it. I get it.
Also, the G League guys, he's right there, Miles McBride. He might not be ready for a backup role. Emmanuel Quickley might not be ready for a starting role, even though it's only 7 games. That's my only way I can see. But it's the same thing with that running back we talked about on the first ever show with the Jets.
But don't you want a guy? Yeah. Don't you want to, in order to get ready, a guy like Miles McBride, let's assume he's not ready, needs these meaningful NBA games.
He does, but
because in the
Wolves,
you're not throwing him to the Wolves. You're not.
You got to find the right way to throw him in. Then you can't. I wouldn't say just give him up. You're now the backup point guard. Quickly, you're the starting point guard, and now you have 2 young guys.
You have to
1 and 2 point
at
guards.
A certain point. You have to let these guys take the floor, make mistakes, get punched in the mouth, and learn from it on the fly. That's why a lot of times when you see coaches when the opposing team goes on a big run, and you think that they're going to call a timeout, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't call the timeout because you have to adapt in the moment, make changes to stop the bleeding. Sometimes that's what you need.
You also don't want to throw these 2 young guys into. It's a disaster situation.
Emmanuel Quickley is not. You can't group Emmanuel Quickley into that though because you don't
want to have him be your starting point guard now in the middle of towards the back end of a disastrous season with Julius Randle still hanging around and the system's not working. Then you have Miles McBride coming in to a disastrous system and the system's not working and the season's horrible. You don't want to throw them into it. You want to start, if you're going to throw them in, start the season with them. It's a fresh start with them.
If we were the worst team in the league and all hope was lost at the All-Star break and we had 30 games left, maybe I'd agree with you. After tonight, there are 6 games left. I don't think that in 6 games you're throwing them to the Wolves. It's not like it's a long season. It's 6 games. See what they can do.
Maybe he wants to give them, if he's going to give those 2 a look, maybe a fresh start in 2022, 2023 season.
But if Miles McBride is truly not ready and you're starting fresh next season, wouldn't you want to start with the guys that you know are ready? Why are you going to experiment early on in the season?
You can groom them throughout the offseason, get them ready for day one.
But you can't play NBA speed games in the offseason. I don't care what kind of scrimmages you run.
Prepare for it at least. But I'm not saying don't give him any minutes. I'm saying just throw him into immediately now. You're the backup point guard, and backup point guard, you're getting some decent minutes. To throw him right into that for a G League player, we're not talking about a top 5 pick.
25 minutes. That's all I'm saying. That's 6 minutes a quarter.
Again,
it's
throwing a G League player into. I mean,
but he's not just a G League player. He's played for this team throughout this regular season.
He's bounced up and down.
And he goes into the G League and he performs extremely well. And then he comes in and of course he struggles a little bit in the NBA. It's a different game, but you won't know until you know. So give him the opportunity, put it in front of him, see what he does. There's 6 games left. You have nothing to lose.
I think
there's absolutely nothing to lose. I'm sorry. I disagree completely.
You didn't even hear what I had to say.
I'm talking. I'm. That's to Jordan.
I know. I just want to play into that, but I think that because they're technically in it, I think that's the hesitation from Thibodeau. I think I'm kind of agreeing with Jordan that he's going to start the guys that are more NBA ready because with the play-in tournament, 12 teams make it or whatever it is, up to 10 teams make it. So they're still in it, unfortunately, because we know they're not going to get it, but they're in it. So you're kind of in this weird limbo stage. If they were officially eliminated from the playoffs, I think that's when maybe you'll start seeing more of the younger guys in. I think that's when Alec Burks maybe Alec Burks goes to the backup role and then you see quickly starting or something like that. But it's because you're still technically in it. Thibodeau's just going to kind of roll through the motions and do what he's supposed to do to possibly make the play-in tournament.
But you have to, as an organization, you have to be realistic with yourself. You don't have to do it. You don't have to make it a public-facing comment and tell your fans that, look, hey, we know we're out of it, so we're going to start throwing these young guys out there. But you're a 33-win team. You are not knocking on the door of a second-round, series win. You're not knocking on the door of the NBA Finals. You are not the Cavaliers. You are not the Raptors. You are not the Hornets. You are the Knicks. You're the 11th seed. You're 33-42. I don't care how well you're playing right now. You have to be real with yourself. And you have to, in my opinion, you have to give these guys that have proven that they can do something and have shown you on the court that they can give half the effort that Julius Randle is giving, that they deserve minutes.
I get what you're saying.
In NBA games.
I get what you're saying, but a playoff appearance from the Knicks looks a lot better on Thibodeau than
what looks really bad on Thibodeau? A sweep in the play-in tournament or a sweep in the first round.
At least I made it. You got it with these coaches and managerial decisions. Something that doesn't really get brought into play a lot when we analyze in every sport coaches and GM decisions is pride. I don't know why that kind of gets overlooked.
Well, they're humans too. They're people.
Exactly. That it should be analyzed more. And pride plays a big thing. Thibodeau gets to say, I made the playoffs 2 years in a row. I got swept, but I made it. When's the last time the Knicks made the playoffs 2 years in a row? Exactly. But we go to Twitter Spaces now. We always go live on Monday nights. My dad's probably chiming in as always. Wait till he connects on through. There he is.
Hello.
What's going on?
How's it going?
Hey, gentlemen, the crew is back.
Yes.
Nice to hear you.
The band's back.
What's up?
The band is back. Well, no, I agree with you guys in the sense that, you got to have some pride as a coach, but this is a business decision the Knicks have to make. And how many games out are they from the play-in?
5.5.
5?
I think 4.5.
4.5.
I think I just saw.
So, I agree with Joe wholeheartedly on this. Throwing them to the Wolves, what's the difference? What's the difference? You're not making the play-in game. It's not like the Lakers that have, I think, the same record as the Knicks, but I think the Lakers are 1 game up on the play-in game. They're a disaster too, but the Knicks are 5.5 games out.
4.5.
Put quickly in 4, whatever they are, 4.5.
Yeah.
Put quickly in. Put like he's have Burks be a backup.
I
put McBride in.
I agree with what Joe's saying. I agree with what you're saying too. But I'm just looking at it from, I guess, Thibodeau's perspective or the organization's perspective. They're not out of it. Therefore, he's going to do what he thinks is right to give them the best chance to make the play-in tournament, because that would look good. That would put a little bit of lipstick on this pig of this season.
That does nothing. That does nothing for me.
In reality, yes,
we would
nothing.
We would hobble in there.
In reality, yes, it does nothing. But
you got to look at it. The manager.
Upper management shouldn't look at it that way. Upper management should say, look, let's play our young guys. We don't make the play-in. We'll get a higher seed in the draft. I know the draft's kind of weak this year, and build from there and hopefully land a free agent. You got to start thinking of offseason here and see what you have on the team. You can't wait until the summer leagues to see how McBride plays and quickly plays on with more time, playing time. You got it now. You got 5-6 games left. Just do it. And if you could unload Randall in the offseason, that should be priority one, because that guy signed a big contract and he just tanked this year. It's unbelievable. It's incredible to me. So.
I don't think you can understate how important these next 6 games are for the young guys. And if you're looking at what this team did to Kemba Walker and just completely stripping him of his minutes, I think you do the exact same for guys like Taj Gibson and Alec Burks, and let Jericho Sims get all of the backup center minutes. Let Miles McBride get all of the backup point guard minutes. I mean, this is trial by fire at this point.
I agree with you.
Let them perform under pressure. The Knicks have a couple of big games coming up. They play the Nets, they play the Cavaliers, they play the Raptors. I mean, these are good teams, and it's nothing that Miles McBride, Jericho Sims will see in the G League or any time in the offseason.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm just telling you the reasons why we're most likely not going to see those scenarios. You as a fan, you want to see those scenarios, but it's just not going to happen because of the stupid playing tournament and the position that they're in. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it's like everybody makes the playoffs. It seems like in the NBA now. Getting to baseball. As far as the Yankees are concerned, I didn't hear the beginning of your show, guys, so I don't know how much you covered. But as far as the Yankees are concerned, I don't see an improvement from last year. They got Donaldson that's injury prone. All right, that shortstop, okay, he's a stopgap until we get the young guy out of the minors. And you're right, Jordan. This guy better be a world beater when he comes up, because they've been hanging a lot on that kid, and he's not even in the majors yet. And the Yankees, they don't go over the luxury tax. That's it. 230 is the number. They got to do something with Judge, but they won't pay that luxury tax. That's just the way. That's the business organization. That's their plan. It's not the old Yankees. Everybody's used to it. Look how far over the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers have a $280 million payroll.
Yeah, Mets are up there too currently,
and the Mets are up there too. Yeah,
I heard I heard a crazy,
not a stat. I heard it on the radio. Scherzer makes $7 million more annually than the whole Pittsburgh Pirate team.
Yeah, no, Pirates owners.
Isn't that sick?
But yeah, and then we complain about the Yankees payroll. They're third in the league in payroll. The Yankees, third in the league in payroll. So they're still spending money, but Jordan, they kind of spend money. Maybe
where's the money going?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And what do they do to spruce up their pitching staff after Cole?
Nothing. Right. It's a bunch of unknowns. I mean, Ty Young could be fine. Montgomery can be fine.
Ty Young can be fine as like your 4.
No, Ty Young could be a 3. Ty Young could be a good,
at best.
Ty Young could be a 3
at best.
I think
if he's healthy.
Yeah,
if he's healthy. Yeah, exactly right. I don't know if you covered any football. This last thing, and I'll drop off. What do you think about this whole Watson trade?
Oh yeah,
and that contract he got.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that in the news and notes, but it turned out it was like he wasn't gonna go there, and then Baker was back after he said he wanted to get traded. They're like, no, we're not trading you, and then now he's back. Now he's in Cleveland.
230 fully guaranteed $1 million kind of helps that situation.
I wonder why he wound up going back thinking about Cleveland again, because he got $230 million.
Right.
Yeah.
And where's Baker going, guys?
Yeah, right.
It was the Colts, but then
they got Matt Ryan.
Got Matt Ryan.
Who's the other teams that need a quarterback? The Giants.
They're going to need a quarterback. The Browns during Watson's suspension.
No, they got Carson Wentz.
Imagine they keep.
They need a quarterback.
Yeah, but
imagine they keep Baker around just for the 6 to 8 game suspension for Deshaun Watson.
Baker wouldn't play.
Yeah, I would not.
He would hold out. He would hold out. And I don't blame him. No,
that'd be a slap in the face to Baker. I would not play either.
Yeah, no, he's getting traded. It's just a matter of when and where.
He's been quiet. They keep talking about the Seahawks. Him going to the Seahawks.
It could be Seahawks.
It's another option because they got rid of Russ.
All right, gentlemen. Appreciate the time. I'll drop off and listen.
Of course.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll finish it up here with news and notes. I'll kick it over to Joe, and Joe will start it up. Joe, what do we got for us?
It's been a while since I've done news and notes, but
Yes,
we're gonna
Joe.
kick it off with the NCAA tournament. Doing this a little bit off the cuff today. The big news coming out of the tournament as we approach the Final Four is that St. Peter's, the team from Jersey City, got bounced over the weekend after making it all the way to the Elite Eight. Had some pretty incredible upsets against teams like Kentucky, Murray State, who I think had won 10 or 11 games in a row up until that point. And then they beat Purdue, thank you, and Jaden Ivey, Purdue. So yes, St. Peter's was the Cinderella of this season's tournament. Seems to be one every year, but this one was probably the best of them all. The last Cinderella that I remember was Florida Gulf Coast. I don't know if you guys ever really paid too much attention,
No, I never.
I remember that one.
Madness.
It's always something that sticks in my mind. So although St. Peter's got smacked by UNC, North Carolina, I mean, incredible job by them this season. When you really think about these Cinderella teams, like the more you think about it, the more impressive it gets, right? You look at their court, right, at their school, it looks like something from our high school,
that we
right?
played in, yeah.
And then you look at Kentucky and Purdue, and it looks like Madison Square Garden. College basketball, college sports is completely different from anything professional in the sense that the best players all go to the big schools. And there's no salary cap, there's no money involved. The things that you've done in the past kind of dictate what kind of program you build and who wants to come play for you. So to have these guys who've played teams like, Marist in the regular season, nothing against Marist, but this isn't Duke, this isn't Kentucky, This isn't Kansas. So to have these guys in St. Peter's come into this tournament, thrown in with all the big dogs, and win 3 games to go to the Elite Eight is magical.
I know what makes it even more crazier. Basketball is such a skill and talent sport. Like in hockey, if the talented team gets outworked, that talented team is going to lose. Same thing in football because it's so physical and competitive.
Yeah.
I'm not saying basketball is competitive, but I would argue hockey and football a little bit more competitive because of the physicality aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But basketball is such a star dominant skill, talent dominant sport, and St. Petersburg would no near the star power of the other teams made it to the Elite Eight. Yeah. So that's even more impressive.
And my dad was pretty into the tournament this season, so we watched a few games together, and he would just look at teams like Purdue and Duke and say, oh, they don't have any of these guys on St. Peter's. And it's true. I mean, look at Zach Edey, the center for Purdue. He's 7'4". I mean, you're 7'4" and you can play basketball. You're not going to St. Peter's. Yeah. So they stepped up big time, and all credit to them, and especially Shaheen Holloway, the head coach, former point guard, played with Kobe Bryant. It's a credit to him and how he ran that offense and what he did to kind of, surprise 3 teams in the tournament. Very, very impressive. So one of the games coming up in the Final Four set of teams is probably the biggest rivalry in college sports, and that's University of North Carolina and Duke in Mike Krzyzewski's final season. So I've kind of said for a few days now that I think that this is something that seems to be destined for Mike Krzyzewski, that he's going to kind of win it all. But man, would it be quite the end to his run if the bitter Duke rival North Carolina knocked them off.
That's weird. That's their first. It's their first meeting.
First time ever meeting in the tournament.
And it's Coach Krzyzewski's last time around the bin, and it's the first time they're meeting in the Final Four. After all the craziness, we're like upsets or whatever, we got 1 versus 2 Villanova, Kansas, then 2 versus 8. So
yeah, and
it all goes back into the top teams.
And Villanova just lost a starter to, I think it's a ruptured Achilles. I don't know if that's official yet, but they are down a player, but they're playing great basketball. Kansas, obviously a number 1 seed for a reason. They are playing great basketball as well. So, yeah, I mean, it should be a great Final Four. The tournament never ceases to disappoint me. Every year, it's March Madness is coming back, and I look at it, and I'm like, oh, there's no way we're going to get, as many buzzer beaters or close games as we've gotten in the past. And every single year, they continue to prove me wrong. So, moving on briefly back to the NFL. I know the last time that we spoke, a few trades went down, but the NFL just kept on coming with the big moves. A few things that happened since we last spoke included Von Miller to the Bills, Allen Robinson, former Bear, to the Rams, after losing Robert Woods. He's kind of the replacement there.
Where did he go again, Robert Woods? Did he go
No,
to
Titans.
Titans.
To
Okay.
the Titans. Devontae Adams.
What are you so confused about?
I don't know. Is that official or was
Yeah.
he just looking? That's official.
No, that's official.
Oh,
They like announced it and took
okay.
pictures.
I thought that
and
was just in the works. I didn't know if it actually
Yeah,
happened yet.
Titans.
Bobby Trees has
Yeah.
gone to the
And
Titans.
no Odell yet. Nobody?
No Odell yet. No Odell. But Devontae Adams, arguably the best receiver in the league, has gone to the Raiders to play with his
That's crazy.
college quarterback.
What-
It is crazy. But
Aaron
then the more
Rodgers comes back after all the turmoil, and then
Mhm.
up there goes your star receiver. Now you have nobody.
And-
Scantling gone too, right?
yep.
Yeah, he's on the Chiefs.
Yep, the Chiefs tried to replace Tyreek Hill with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I mean,
Juju.
both speedy guys, but they're very different. Yep, Juju to the Chiefs as well. Matt Ryan to the Colts, and then the big one as it relates to New York is probably Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins because the Jets were involved in that for about an hour.
I was just you beat me to
Sorry,
the punchline.
sorry.
I was gonna say that was a fun hour.
Was it a fun hour?
It was a stressful hour.
It was a
That was an
it
up
was
and
a
down. It
Yeah.
reminds me of the situation. I think 2 years ago, the Islanders had there was a trade between the Islanders and the Blackhawks, and the Islanders were trading Ilya Sorokin before we really we knew Ilya Sorokin, the prospect in the KHL, but he never showed up yet.
Mhm.
And there was a trade between Islanders and Islanders sending Ilya Sorokin to the Blackhawks, but it wasn't announced who we were getting from Chicago. So the joke was that we were getting Patrick Kane from the Blackhawks. So we're at the whole Isles Twitter was like, oh, I can't wait to see Patrick Kane in an Islanders jersey, because for a while it was like, all right, Islanders trading Ilya Sorokin to the Blackhawks, and no one knew what we were getting. So that was the joke. Oh,
remember
we're getting
this.
Patrick Kane. Then the trade got voided. We wound up keeping Sorokin. That's what this reminded me of, where you thought you were going to get
Similar.
Tyreek
It's
Hill.
similar.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, he's right there. He's right there.
I know.
And now he's gone. And he goes to Miami, and he kind of took a shot at the Jets. He's like, kind of saying like the Jets were never a thought in my mind.
It was
pretty
because
much.
I think it came down to the contract extension after the trade. The Jets were not willing to give him what was it, $72 million, I think, guaranteed, and it was like 4 years, $120 million.
State, you also got to think about state income tax there. And he'll get screwed in
Yeah,
New York
the-
and by
the
Miami.
the
He
Jets
lives
were-
in Miami as well.
The Jets were not paying a receiver $30 million. I know it's Tyreek Hill. I know he would be a great asset and would help Zach Wilson tremendously, but that's a lot of money to give. That's a lot of money to give to the wide receiver position.
Yeah, so for
And these
couple-
Jets aren't going to do that.
yeah, so for a short while, it looked like Tyreek Hill was going to be a Jet. That would have been blown up the world in New York sports media, but not to be, Joe. Not to be.
Real quick, what do we think about Matt Ryan to the Colts?
The Colts are just one year after another. The QB
Yeah,
carousel.
it's insane how they have
Yeah.
a new start.
They-
It's like a significant starter every year.
Ever since they got Luck went down, it's been one mediocre to average quarterback after another. Philip Rivers at the tail end of his career.
I forgot about that.
Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan,
Yeah.
average at
Yeah.
best.
And
Well, no,
next,
no, they
next year it
started-
might be
they-
somebody else.
The first couple
Jacoby
years, it was like Brissett.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So you went
he
mediocre,
was in the lower tier.
average with Rivers, mediocre and Wentz, average in Matt Ryan.
I think this is an upgrade.
This is their best upgrade since
Yeah.
Luck went out, but
Yeah.
still average
Yeah.
at this point of his career. I think it's average
Yeah.
for him.
I agree.
And
They're going to
then
have to continue to rely on
Atlanta
that
has
run
a
game.
quarterback, a young quarterback.
Marcus
right?
Mariota, but they're probably going to draft.
Oh, I'm thinking Trey Lance. He's in San Francisco.
Yeah,
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 where's Jimmy Garoppolo gonna go? Where's he gonna
Did you
wind
say
up?
it like that on purpose?
Yeah,
He did. He did.
Okay. Where's
Yeah.
Julian Endelman going to go?
Endelman. You know, Garoppolo might. We don't know if he.
I think he's sticking around. I think he's.
They're gonna stick
I-
around.
I
They got
saw-
Trey Lance waiting.
right
behind.
They
before-
don't know what to do with
They
him.
have no
He's-
idea.
He's good enough to start,
He's
but
not going
not
to
good
pick-
enough to trade.
Everyone's filling up on their
Like,
quarterbacks.
yeah.
Steelers got Trubisky. The Commanders got Wentz. Rivers. Ryan went to the Colts.
Baker's got to go somewhere.
Baker's going
Yeah.
somewhere. Deshaun to the Browns.
6 hours ago, GM for the 49ers, John Lynch, spoke at length about Jimmy Garoppolo. Long story short, he said that they have no plans to release him. So I guess
that
they
doesn't
could
mean
trade
anything. Yeah,
him.
they're gonna trade him.
But
Try to get
I
someone.
would not be surprised if they kept him around. Would not. I mean,
I wouldn't either. I mean,
we
all-
talked about this.
It all depends how Trey Lance is going to look leading up to the season. I mean, if he's making a jump from what he looked like this past preseason and training camp to this year, then Jimmy Garoppolo could honestly be backing up Trey Lance if he's going to make that big of a jump. But I mean, we won't.
It's a
find that
weird
out till
situation
September.
to be in if you're the Niners because Jimmy G, like your team is set up to win now. Like, you're winning now with Jimmy Garoppolo. He might not be the shiniest quarterback out there, right? He might not do anything that makes your jaw drop on Sundays, but he's a serviceable quarterback, and he's gotten them to the postseason handful of years. He got them to a Super Bowl, obviously on the back of a really strong defense. But I mean, that's what makes it so hard to move on from him, because you move on from him, you're taking a step back. He's a big part of the reason why that they've had the success in recent years. But moving on to our final news and notes item, that's of course Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, the entire Browns drama that just seems to continuously follow that team in Cleveland, whether it be losing or signing guys that have 22 sexual assault cases filed against them. So
such a typical Browns move to do.
It's a typical Browns move, but the details of the contract are probably the craziest, just because the Browns gave Watson the largest guaranteed contract in NFL history. He's got a 5-year agreement. It's worth $230 million. They signed him when everybody thought that they were out and they were no longer in the running for Deshaun Watson. News broke that he was going to Cleveland, and it shocked the sports world. It didn't really make a ton of sense why he went there. He feels like he can win there. That's why he chose them. But let's face it, it was about the guaranteed money.
Definitely.
He's pretty much set up now so that the only money he could lose, the only penalty that he could face, aside from maybe a suspension, would be losing $55,000 per game, which is what he would lose if he was suspended by the NFL, which is nothing when you're making $230 million. That's somebody's salary.
This might be the bitter Steeler, not the bitter, just the Steeler fan of me, but I think I would say this from an outside perspective. I think this move will set the Browns back to step one, where they've been for the longest time. I think this move will fail, and they're going to be stuck with Deshaun Watson. He's not going to be happy again, and everything's going to unravel like it usually does in Cleveland.
It'll based on that. If he's happy, there's no question his talent.
I feel like I think it's going to be like the same thing with the Texans. He's going to be great or good, and the team's going to stink, and it's going to be all over again. I see the Browns going backwards.
But the Browns are better than the Texans right now.
Yeah, but I see the Browns going
much better.
I know.
Well, compared to what they were, compared to like when he was with the Texans, or are you talking about the Texans now?
Both, honestly.
Who are the Browns receivers right now?
Amari Cooper.
Right.
That's
Amari Cooper. That's it.
I mean, Njoku and Austin Hooper are names at the tight end, but they haven't really done much.
They can still get Landry. No,
but like think about the receiving. Think about the receivers that he had when he was in Houston. He had Kenny Stills, Will Fuller, who could never stay healthy. Hopkins, and then did he play with Brandon Cooks, or did that come after?
That came after.
I don't know. It's
but the defense. The Browns' defense is wildly better than the Texans.
Yeah, they got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
That's not on the defense.
Oh, I just thought you said team.
Defense.
I thought you said
no.
Yeah, he has.
And he's got Chubb and Hunt.
But I just see. I don't know. I feel like this is another Brown situation that it's going to bite them.
I'm not disagreeing with you, because we know his temperament, and we know
the Browns' history too.
Yes,
making moves like
it's just a bad look. We knew one team was going to do it, right? One team was going to go after this guy, and after they did, the owner, the GM, the head coach all released statements about it, explaining why they did it. Anytime you have to come out with 3 separate statements explaining why you signed the guy, probably means that you shouldn't have signed the guy.
And also, did you see the press conference? It looked like doomsday.
Oh, it was horrible.
It was like everyone was miserable. Usually you the Yankees bring in Garrett Cole, and they want to get the jersey out, post for pictures, everyone's smiling. This was like a funeral. Like they were announcing Deshaun Watson passed. That's how it was.
This is what they signed up for.
Yeah.
This is what they signed up for, and it's, the Browns have come out and they said that we did extensive research into this,
his situation.
And so what you're doing essentially is saying that we believe Deshaun, and we don't believe any of these women because we did extensive research, and then news came out that they never touched base with any one of the women or the women's lawyers to confirm anything.
They were advised not to.
They were.
I heard. I think
they were, but it wasn't. It's not a criminal case anymore.
Didn't he not get indicted on then that's when everyone started thinking, all right, where's he going? Where's he going now?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's a lot of behind the scenes stuff.
And they want to act like the Browns want to act like, we did this, we came to this agreement, amongst ourselves, within ourselves, and we said, you know what? This is something that we want to do. We want to go after Deshaun Watson. No. It's the complete opposite. Deshaun Watson picked you guys.
Because he saw the guaranteed contract money.
They were going after him, and then he told them no. And then once they, I guess, upped their money or whatever they did.
Yeah.
But the Browns did not pick Deshaun Watson. They did not.
Well, they chose Deshaun Watson over Baker Mayfield.
Well,
that's something.
Of course.
Yeah, but Ringle's right. They targeted him. He said no. Upped the money. Came back.
Yes, but I'm saying, like, you can't tell us that, we did our due diligence and we feel good about this. No. Like, that's not the way it worked. I'm sorry. He picked you. He had a line of suitors in front of him.
It takes two.
Yes, of course.
But
you, no matter
I get what you're saying.
No matter what you believe,
yeah,
you were going to accept him no matter what, because he's Deshaun Watson, because he can help you win games.
Yeah, everyone's got a short memory when it comes to that stuff. And what was it? It was the Falcons, Panthers, and Saints also in it, I believe. Deshaun ruled out the Panthers.
I thought it was going to be the Falcons.
I thought it was going to be the Saints.
Leading up to the Browns, getting him, it seemed like it was Falcons.
Falcons, like, from a team perspective, yeah, maybe Falcons were giving it their all to try to get them, but it takes two once again, and Deshaun had to pick where he went. I don't know about you guys, but I think I would want to go to the Saints if I'm him, right? I mean, the Falcons are
Michael Thomas,
nowhere
Kamara.
near competing.
Money talks.
But money talks, yeah. So
it was the guaranteed money.
What I'm not talking about the Browns. I was just saying between the Falcons and the Saints for now. So I thought it was going to be the Saints until the Browns upped their money, and then he just followed the money train.
So I think the biggest news story of the day to wrap up the episode here of Uncontested Sports is what's on everyone's minds coming into this Monday.
I thought it was something.
No, it's not. It's what I said it before the show. We got to talk about it.
But he had that smirk on where, like, it could have been something stupid.
It has nothing to do with sports, but every sports media outlet's talking about it, because how can you not? If you want to check the ticker right now, I think I captioned it quite accurately. The slap heard around the world.
I thought of this exact.
Was it a slap or was it a closed fist?
It was a slap. An open hand slap.
He opened up.
So I'm at home last night watching Spider-Man No Way Home because it came out on Xbox, so I bought it. So I'm like, I'm gonna watch it, and I get a text from Sharp of the video. I don't watch the Oscars. I don't watch any of the award shows. It's stupid. I can care less. But I had to pause my movie to go on Twitter, and this was amazing. Chris Rock's on stage. He's not the host. He's a presenter. He's cracking jokes left and right. So before he gets to Will Smith and his wife, he makes a joke to this other couple. The husband isn't nominated for an award. The wife's not nominated for an award. So he makes a joke saying, hey, if she loses the award tonight, Steve over here, you better hope you lose, because if she loses and you win, it's not going to be a good time. He's like, you got to pray Will Smith wins the award. Everyone laughs. This guy's to hope Will Smith wins the award because his wife will be upset because he won and she didn't. Then they pan to Will Smith, and he's sitting next to his wife, and he makes a joke, a G.I. Jane joke. You don't know G.I. Jane? It's a movie where this woman goes in the Navy SEALs, shaves her hair in the movie. She's bald in the movie. Keep that in mind. Chris Rock goes to Jada Pinkett Smith, says, I'm looking forward to G.I. Jane 2 because she's bald. I didn't know at the time. I don't think Chris Rock knew at the time. She has a hair condition which causes her to lose hair. I didn't know this. Not many people did. I don't think Chris Rock did. As he makes the joke, you can see Jada Pinkett Smith is pissed, but Will Smith's laughing. I think he's laughing at the previous joke, but didn't hear the joke about his wife. Camera cuts back to Chris Rock, and I think when that camera cut back, Jada Pinkett Smith told Will Smith what the joke was. And then we get probably the greatest moment ever on live TV. Will Smith walks on stage, open hand slaps Chris Rock, sits back down, and twice tells him, keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth. And it was absolutely fantastic. Chris Rock looked, as well as he pulled it off, he looked shook, because how could he not be shook? He did play it off well, but he looked floored.
What do you think was going through Chris Rock's head when Will was walking up? Because, like, he seemed
he said
like he was going to come
oh,
give him a hug.
Yeah, he said, like, oh. Like, I think he just thought Will was going to come up and then just, like
do like a fake, like a friendly, like, tag, like,
like do something like a bit or, like, play into something. But I don't... Instead, he got smacked across the mouth.
It had like a... It was such a... So I went to bed super early. I didn't see it. I watched the beginning of the Oscars, but when I woke up, it was all over my timeline. It was like so shocking to hear the news because it's so surreal, right? That a guy as famous and seemingly universally like well liked, I would assume, for Will Smith, to do that on that stage shows just complete lack of self-control. Really, really put a stain on his reputation.
So the joke, if someone jokes about your significant other's medical condition, I can understand, even if the person didn't know, I can understand being upset. So I can understand Will Smith being upset or pissed and annoyed that there was a joke made at his wife's expense about her condition, whether he knew about it or not. I understand the frustration, but you cannot.
You got to realize
on
where
live
you are.
TV,
Yeah.
walk on stage and slap someone in the face, slap the guy in the face about it. You could be mad. How many? I go back to the ESPYs when Peyton Manning made fun of Kevin Durant with his relationship with Russell Westbrook, and they cut to Kevin Durant, and he was just miserable, stonewall faced. You can show you're upset about the joke, but you can't walk on stage and slap someone in the face. Handle it behind the scenes, fine. But I understand Will Smith was mad. If Chris Rock knew or didn't know, I could still understand being mad at the joke, but you can't walk on stage and slap the guy in the face.
I think the worst part about it too was that Will Smith stood up, walked on stage, assaulted a man, and then sat back down in his seat, accepted an award for Best Actor, and then went to the after party
like nothing happened,
as if nothing happened.
Because these people, they're powerful people, they can do whatever they
They're
want.
powerful people.
They feel like they can do whatever
they're
they want.
entitled people. If this, we talked about it in the car, Ringle. If this was some random person, be completely different. We just finished talking about Deshaun Watson, right? Any person, any normal person who has 22 sexual assault cases against them loses their job. Probably has a hard time finding another one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Deshaun Watson, because of who he is, just got $230 million.
Yep.
This is the way the world works. It's not fair, but it's the way that it goes, and there will be more of it. And I don't know.
My dad said Will Smith apologized today.
Did he?
Yeah.
I did not.
And
see
Chris
that.
Rock didn't press charges, and I think went partying that night. So I don't think he's that floored.
Well, because Chris Rock looks like he is the winner in this situation.
Yeah, he said, and there's been jokes. I said this to you guys before the show. Ricky Gervais hosted the Golden Globes many times and destroyed everyone in the audience. He made fun of Mel Gibson's alcoholism to his face at the Golden Globes, and Mel Gibson, of all people, did not assault him. So there have been jokes made at people's expense that have somewhat crossed the line in the past at many award shows. No one's attacked anybody. So Will Smith,
you also
you can't do that.
If I can read part of his apology, it looks like it was shared about a half an hour ago. He said, quote, "Jokes at my expense are a part of the job, but a joke about Jada's medical condition was too much for me to bear, and I reacted emotionally. I'd like to publicly apologize to you, Chris. I was out of line and wrong. I'm embarrassed. There's no place for violence in a world of love and kindness." He also apologized to the Williams sisters and everybody.
They were there. The Williams sisters.
Everybody.
Their movie that had to do with them was up.
"I deeply regret that my behavior was stained. That has stained what has been an otherwise gorgeous journey for all of us. I am a work in progress." I'm telling you, I can't look at this picture of him slapping Chris Rock anymore.
Yeah.
It's been
it's
burned
ingrained in everyone's head.
It's been burned in my brain. The closed fist in one hand and then the turning of the body. It was a solid smack.
And Will
but
Smith and Jada Smith have been in the public eye for the past couple of years with the affairs and the open marriage, and she's kind of dragged his name through the mud, and now he's standing up for her in this way. But here's a crazy thing: a different setting makes this kind of acceptable. If this is a guy at the bar with his girl and a guy comes up to him and is making fun of his girl's bald head, he punches him, the people at the bar probably salute him.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. If I'm at the bar with my girlfriend, let's say, and I don't know, Joe comes up to me and starts making fun of my girl's bald head, and everyone hears the jokes, and I pop Joe in the face, I probably get a free round of drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the setting was different, and it was Chris Rock at the Oscars live on TV.
You gotta know where you
Will
are.
Smith. Yeah.
And I think I think that just proves how many contributing factors there were to Will Smith doing this, right? Not condoning his actions, but you mentioned all of the issues that they've had in the past with their public affairs and stuff.
Entanglement with August.
The entanglement with August. I think that Will Smith saw this as an opportunity to kind of like rebuild his reputation,
Yeah.
or he
Put his
thought
foot
that
down.
he thought that it was going to rebuild his reputation and kind of reverse all of the stereotypical things that people said about him previously. It clearly backfired on him. But yeah, I mean, Chris Rock embarrassed his wife on a national stage. Will Smith thought he was being the bigger man by defending his wife's honor and humiliating the person that humiliated his wife on a national stage. It just completely backfired on him. I think he realizes that now. I hope he realizes that now. Can't erase what he did. It's unfortunate, but that's it.
My dad brought up a good point. Love and kindness after he smacked Chris Rock.
He said that like 20 minutes
in
later
the
when he accepted the speech, and now he's saying like, you think it's bad now? He said that 20 minutes after
Love
he
and
slapped
kindness.
him.
Boom to the face. But yeah, what a moment. That definitely tops Beyonce is one of the best albums of all time with Taylor Swift and Kanye.
Yeah,
That tops the best
Yeah,
live.
definitely.
This has to be the best moment in live TV ever,
Yeah.
I think. It'd be hard to beat. But that will wrap it up on this episode of Uncontested Sports on this Monday night with Jordan, Joe, and Ringle. As always, next week we're right at the finish line of spring training and right into the regular season. Basketball and hockey season are coming to an end, so we might get into that as well. Again, Jordan, Joe, and Ringle for Uncontested Sports. We'll see you all next week.
Kyrie Irving can play in home games again.
Yeah, yes. That's good for him. Good for him. Except for Toronto. Right? So hopefully they don't play Toronto in the first round. All right?
Let's hope.